This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, Joanne Crone. Hello to all my Lolas out there. Today, we're going into a question that I am asked here a lot, both as a parenting coach, really a mom coach, helping you get out of that overwhelm, helping you get out of that reactivity. We did a series here on the podcast all about why you yell. But this viewpoint was so interesting. I think you're going to love my conversation today, because picture this, you're in the car and your kid just had some disappointing news, and all of a sudden you feel it deep in your body. Something just fires, your chest tightens, your stomach drops, and every instinct you have either wants to fix it or wants to tell them, hey, it's not a big deal, you'll do something else. This is why our conversation today is so important. Today, I'm talking with Dr. Cassidy Freitas. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist and author of the new book, which I have right here. It is called Mom Needs a Moment: How to Stop Your Reaction Before It Starts. And what she shares about why we get so reactive, it's not a viewpoint you've heard before, because it's not exhaustion. It's not being a bad mom. It's not like having too many things on your plate. Part of it goes back to way back when you were little, trying to figure out what kept you safe and loved and feeling like you were enough. And you brought all of that to your parenting. I mean, have you ever considered that before? Now it shows up when your kid has a meltdown, and when your kid has like uncomfortable emotions, it pushes back on you. In this episode, you're going to hear about what pings are and how they can help you not react in the moment. Dr. Cassidy is going to share a lot about her own experience. And if you have ever said, I don't know why I snapped like that, this episode is going to explain it all. So now let's get on with the show. Welcome, Cassidy, to the podcast. I'm so excited to talk about all this reactivity stuff with you. And you're just coming off of a huge, unpredictable schedule. You went from Hawaii to New York to be on CBS Morning, and then you're back here. So how's your nervous system doing right now?
Oh, yeah. Before we hit record, we were just chatting. Hawaii. I was on a family trip, right? It's parenting in the wild, not necessarily a vacation. It was incredible, right? We were out there, just living our best lives. And also, I have an Aura ring, and every day my Aura ring was like, you've experienced more stress today. And I'm like, I'm in Hawaii. But also all the new mental tabs open, right? And lots of moving parts, and kids continue to be kids out in the wild. Right. And then I went from, Hawaii to New York. That time change completely just got me. Flew out there, did not sleep a wink. The next morning was on CBS Morning News to talk about family stress on vacations or trips.
You had so many stories.
I was like, I know. And then they're like, and we have 3 minutes. And I'm like, okay. I blacked out, and it was great. I got to meet Gail King and talk to her about explosive newborn poop. She had actually read my book and knew intimate details of it, which, of course she does. She's a pro. But oh my gosh, it was wonderful in so many meaningful ways. And yet, of course, my nervous system is a threat detector and was revved up. And sometimes our nervous system, even when we're doing things that are really great and exciting, when it gets activated, it can make things like sleep tricky. It can make us feel on edge. It can make us feel like we black out during a, morning show segment. It went well once I was willing to watch it back.
All that excitement, all that adrenaline. I told you, it is my dream to be on one of those New York, nationwide morning shows.
You'll be there. You'll get
I
there.
could say like, I've done it here in Arizona and I could totally relate to the blacking out because it like you have all this nervous anticipation and then it goes like that and you have no idea what happened.
And you know what? You know what happened is that one of the anchors, Nate, like, a father, right before we go live, he shared with me how he supports his wife in sharing the mental load so that she can actually be present during trips and not carry all that herself. He says that right before we go live, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have 3.5 minutes to somehow provide some tips, try to also talk about my book. And now you've said this, and I feel like this opportunity for a father to share on national television what he just said felt so important. So I was like, I'm going to give away 30 seconds of these 3.5 minutes and I'm going to throw it back to him to be like, hey, what did you just say? Because that felt really important. And I want you to say that on national television. Like as a dad, what he does to help his wife not carry the mental load on her own. So I did that. I threw it back to him. He got to say that. It felt like that was really meaningful because, when it comes to mom needing a moment and like trying to feel more present and connected as a parent, which is, the name of my book, I think we also need to talk about the support system around her. And I was like, I got to throw it back to you, Nate. Well, you said something before we went live.
Well, the support system is so important because so many moms feel like they have to do it by themselves. Like I just got off with a coaching client of mine and she had that mindset too that we're working through. But this belief that like it is so important for me to do it by myself. And you, Cassidy, in your book, which I'm holding if you guys are watching on YouTube right now.
That is so surreal.
It's so surreal to see. Isn't it like to see people holding your book that I'm sure you've worked on for like the past like few years of your life?
It was okay. For real. So I had like 10 years of like brain dumping in a like document of just like personal stories, clinical anecdotes, little pieces that I was pulling together. And I was like, wait, I think that this is connected, and like started talking this way to my clients and finding like a lot of success with like that. And these like through lines and these connections, like a decade of brain dumping. And then yes, over probably the last like 3 or 4 years, like trying to pull it together into something cohesive for a book. I don't have courses or anything, so it's all in there.
It's all in the book. And I know like so many moms out there, they really give themselves a hard time about being so reactive and so explosive. And you say it's like not just exhaustion that's causing it. So like what's actually happening in the nervous system at that moment that you just react?
Yeah. And I'd love to answer this if I can by just like getting real and like personal with like my own.
That's how we like it.
Okay. I could just teach, but I could also tell you, my gosh, when I became a mom, my oldest is 14, almost 15, wild. But when I was a first time mom all those years ago, I was also a young therapist at the time, right? I was still working on my hours. I was a trainee at the time, but I had been in school. Like I knew a few things about things like, gosh, your marriage might be a little harder after you have a child. I knew the symptoms and the protective factors for postpartum depression and anxiety. And yet I had not done my own personal deeper work at that point in time. Of course, when you're in the program and you're becoming a therapist, you're reading things in textbooks, you're making personal connections, but I really had not done my own work. And I went into motherhood with a lot of these parts of me that didn't start in adulthood. These are parts of me that from a very early age learned, okay, I am a new human being in this world. I'm looking at the world around me and the relationships around me, and I'm trying to figure out, how do I stay safe? What allows me to stay attached to these caregivers that I rely on for everything? What do I need to do to belong? What makes me lovable? Yeah. And when I really reflect on that now, I see the context in, my parents and what they brought into parenthood, right? What they learned when they were little, and that they, at that point in time, their generation didn't have all the support and resources for healing and working through their triggers and their stuff. And so, yeah, what I brought into motherhood was a lot of old stuff, old rules of things that I had learned that I needed to do to survive. And for me, that looked a lot like the need to achieve, perfectionism, people pleasing, just having your stuff together in a way that was not so much reflective of being able to access support and be vulnerable. And so, yeah, I went into that first like birth experience and postpartum thinking if I could just be like a straight A mom and like, and like have all the things and like have control over this, then I'll be okay. And then I could keep myself safe and her.
Hey, I wanted to share a new children's album with you. You have to check out Magnificent by Lotchie. In case you're not in the know, Lotchie is a Grammy-nominated musician and author whose work focuses on inclusion and helping kids feel confident in who they are. It's one of those albums that feels as good for parents as it does for little ones. Magnificent is full of playful, feel-good songs that celebrate self-expression, imagination, and those everyday moments you'll recognize as a parent. It's the kind of music you can put on during the morning routine, in the car, or when your child needs a bit of calm. There's a really gentle message running through the album around confidence and emotional well-being without ever feeling heavy or lesson-led. Just catchy, thoughtful songs that kids can connect with and that you won't mind hearing on repeat. Magnificent is streaming now on all major platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen. If you want to check it out, just hit the link in this episode's description and it'll take you straight there. A new school year means new opportunities for positive change, big or small. My son is starting 8th grade, and I could not be more excited for him. He's finally the older kid at junior high, not a Sevy anymore. And he's trying something totally new this year, art class. I have no idea what he's going to think about it. And honestly, that's my favorite part of a new year, watching him figure out who he is. If you're looking for a new path to help your child succeed, there's still time to enroll in K-12 powered online schools. K-12 offers tuition-free accredited online public education for kids in kindergarten through 12th grade, built around your child's own pace with dedicated teachers giving real-time support. It's not too late to enroll for this fall. See how K-12 powered schools can help your child thrive this year and beyond. Enroll online today at k12.com/ngm. That's the letter K, the number 12.com/ngm. k12.com/ngm. You know what I wish existed when my kids were little? Great Wolf Lodge. An indoor water park inside your hotel where it's always 84 degrees, especially living in Phoenix where the sidewalks burn your toes. That would have been amazing. At Great Wolf Lodge, the whole family gets to splash around in a massive indoor water park with a wave pool, a lazy river, and water slides that you can all ride together. But here's what's really cool about it. They also have Magi Quest, which is a live action adventure game kids play throughout the entire lodge. It's like the magic never stops and your kids are always occupied. Between the Northern Lights Arcade, the great dining options, and the complimentary dance parties nightly, there's genuinely something for everyone all under one roof. No packing up and driving somewhere every hour. No, I'm bored. Just connection, fun, and honestly, a little magic for you too. With 22 lodges across the country, there's probably one close to you. Check it out at greatwolf.com and bring your pack together. You bring up such a great thing though about like, we do all these things just to keep ourselves safe. It's like, it's no shame attached. It's no like shooting on ourselves and saying like, oh my gosh, like, why did I do that? But it's keeping safe. And when I was reading your book, I had kind of a revelation about like, what do I do to keep myself safe in terms of like the relationships I have with my kids right now? I have a 17-year-old daughter who is going into college in the fall, who's moving away from home. But there's a lot of stuff that I'm noticing about myself as my daughter ages and she asserts more independence and she wants like a lot more control over her life, but she still like needs me there as a mom. Like you just realize that, first of all, I've realized rejection hits me extremely, extremely hard.
Ooh, yes.
Perceived rejection.
For me, it's disappointment that I've disappointed someone.
That you disappointed someone. Yeah. And this comes back to what we've seen. Could you share the story about like your mom and your dad? Like their kind of histories and what like led them to having the traits they did? Because I find that so fascinating.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you for the invitation to share this piece of it. Because I think that my hope is that then it becomes an invitation for the listener and the reader to be like, all right, my parents, right? Like, or my caregivers, the adults around me growing up, like they were thinking of them as like the children of your grandchildren, right? Or like the context and what did they learn to how to survive? And then how did that land on you at a really vulnerable age, so little, right? And just trying to absorb that all and make sense of that. So my dad grew up really poor. Around the dinner table, the sort of conversations revolved around academic success because that was how his parents saw, really, like, this is how you're going to survive in the world, how you're going to be able to go to college, how you're going to be able to elevate out of financial hardship and financial stress, right? And so there was a lot of pressure for academic success. You were only going to be able to go to college if you get a scholarship, right? And that was his sort of trajectory. He also experienced a lot of harsh parenting, right? That was a generation where hitting and competition between siblings and, you know, a lot of that sort of stress was in their home as well. My mom is Hispanic woman, a woman of color, and you know she's now a judge. My dad's a lawyer. He was a public defender. My mom is now a judge, and so they met, like, you know, in the courtroom.
It was like, yeah, how'd that go?
Yeah,
that's a story for another time because that sounds very interesting.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's a really, really fun story. You know, they're both public defenders. My mom went on to become a judge. My dad, you know, calls her Your Honor, like in the workspace, also at home. You know, so she's a Hispanic woman who, you know, in order to survive in the spaces that she was showing up in, which was primarily white male dominated, like she had to be perfect. Like when you already stand out, there's no room for error. So she had to be perfect. She also shares this with me now. She carried a lot of imposter syndrome, but so it was kind of the sense of like, I can't let any vulnerability be shown because I already feel like an imposter. In order to survive in these spaces, I have to be perfect. And that followed her home. And what that looked like, though, was, you know, she never apologized. I saw her as perfect. She presented as very strong and perfect. And that was what I thought it was supposed to look like, you know? And so when I became a parent and this little one came into the world with, oh my gosh, all of these feelings, right? Like all of these like parts of herself that she didn't feel the need to keep small or to perfect or to hide.
They have nothing like that yet.
Nothing like that. And, you know, it was incredibly triggering to me. And when I look back on videos of myself, like parenting her when she was little, oh, I cringe. There was so much of me just like, especially out in the world around other people, around my parents, like hovering around her, wanting to kind of like manage and control her behavior, her feelings. And speaking of repair, I would say that I have definitely done the work to become someone who my kids will tell you that I say sorry all the time, right? Always making mistakes as one does and coming in to repair, right?
Yes.
Imperfect over here. But one thing I do with her, my oldest, who's now 14, my youngest is 5, and she gets to kind of witness me parenting the 5-year-old, right? I'll tell her, like, you might not remember what these moments looked like of meltdowns or, you know, disappointment and like, as you know, and having a meltdown over being disappointed over something as a 5-year-old, but your body does probably remember, right? And I didn't handle these situations in the same way that I am now with your younger sister. And so her and I are having constant dialogue around these things. And it really is. It's not the moment that we get triggered. It's not just that moment, right? Like there's a narrative. There's like these parts of us that pop up and get reactive. They have stories that they carry. They have sort of survival mechanisms that they learned back in the day. It's old stuff that are popping up in these moments. And I think it's what I walk the reader through in the book is how do we identify what these triggers are in the moment? How do we do work outside of the moment? So they're happening less, of course, but also how do we identify, you know, the story behind that trigger so that we can break some cycles for our kids and leave a legacy that we can feel really proud of.
Absolutely. I know so many people really give themselves shame about being triggered. And one of like the questions I hear the most often is, I can't stop myself. I can't stop myself from reacting. Like I can't stop myself from pausing in the moment. And you talk about these old scripts that have already been written. And you also address these things called pings, like the body ping, the thought ping, the feeling ping, and the behavior ping that gives you kind of the, oh, something's coming. Tell us more about like these pings and how we can use them.
Oh my gosh, totally. And if I could share another personal story, it's a recent event that happened that I think is really can hopefully paint a picture of this. So my oldest worked her butt off this past year to try to get into freshman math honors. And it worked her. She really did. It was all her, like, I felt a lot of academic pressure to have a certain GPA and to get certain grades. And that's why I wanted to be a straight A mom. But with my kids, I've really tried to break that cycle and like, what is your interest? What motivates you? Like, how do we connect this to something that actually matters to you? And this was really self-driven from her. And while we were traveling, while we were in Hawaii, she got the email that she didn't get it.
Oh.
And I was in the back seat while we were driving when she got the email. She was in the front, and that's because she has sensory sensitivities, and being in the back seat in this rental car with her two younger siblings was like she was at her max. And so we switched.
Yeah, that'd be a sensory overload for sure.
She has language for that now to be like, Mom, I need to sit in the front for a bit. So I was in the back, she was in the front. But what that meant was that I could see the mirror of her in the front when she got the email. And, I put my hand on her shoulder, but just could see her face. And there was something in her face that pinged something for me. It was this like deep disappointment and this like worry of what does this mean and rejection. And I could see it in her eyes and like, she's 14. I don't see her pout very much, but there was like this like deep sadness in her face and the tears welling, and it pinged something for me. And what do I mean by a ping? There were thoughts that I was having, thoughts like, first off, yes, thoughts of like, what does this mean for the trajectory of like these bigger goals that she has? But there was also thoughts of like, she's feeling rejection right now and sadness. And it hurts so bad to see that in her face. I know what that feeling is like. I've had that feeling before. How can I fix this? How can I rescue her from this moment and this feeling so she doesn't have to sit in this pain? And I felt it in my body. There was a tightness in a chest, a pit in my stomach. And what my reactive response wanted to do was to rescue her from this. Like, it could look like we should email them and be like, because I think she had said the teacher like kind of dropped the ball, didn't like send in some like testing stuff. Like maybe they made a mistake. Like maybe we can fight for this. What can you do over the summer? Is there any way that we can make this work? Or this doesn't matter. You don't even like, what you want to do for your career doesn't have to do with math. You don't even like math. I'm not good at math either. Like it's not, it's.
I think those are two very common responses too that people want to have during a situation like that.
A new school year means new opportunities for positive change, big or small. My son is starting 8th grade, and I could not be more excited for him. He's finally the older kid at junior high, not a Sevi anymore. And he's trying something totally new this year, art class. I have no idea what he's going to think about it. And honestly, that's my favorite part of a new year, watching him figure out who he is. If you're looking for a new path to help your child succeed, there's still time to enroll in K-12 powered online schools. K-12 offers tuition-free accredited online public education for kids in kindergarten through 12th grade, built around your child's own pace with dedicated teachers giving real-time support. It's not too late to enroll for this fall. See how K-12 powered schools can help your child thrive this year and beyond. Enroll online today at k12.com/ngm. That's the letter K, the number 12.com/ngm. k12.com/ngm.
If I got a notification every time my kids spent money, mine would just be daily fried chicken order confirmed from a different place every single time. Funny aside, that's exactly why I like Cash App's managed accounts for kids ages 6 to 12. No hidden fees, no minimum balance. And here's the part that gets me. Their savings habits and money history carry forward from a parent managed account at 6 to a teen account at 13 to a full account at 18. No switching apps, no starting over. If you're ready to start teaching money habits without adding more stress to your plate, download Cash App and set up a managed account for your child today. For a limited time, new Cash App customers who are parents can use our exclusive referral code FAMILY10 to earn $10. Download Cash App, enter the referral code in your profile, send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll receive $10. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Cash App Visa debit flex cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC, and the Bancorp Bank NA pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc. See terms and conditions for the Sutton prepaid card, Sutton debit flex card, and Bancorp debit flex card. Savings and offers provided by Cash App, a Blanc brand. Parents and legal guardians can open a managed account for kids 6 to 12. Visit cash-app/legal/podcast for full disclosures.
You know what I wish existed when my kids were little? Great Wolf Lodge. An indoor water park inside your hotel where it's always 84 degrees, especially living in Phoenix where the sidewalks burn your toes. That would have been amazing. At Great Wolf Lodge, the whole family gets to splash around in a massive indoor water park with a wave pool, a lazy river, and water slides that you can all ride together. But here's what's really cool about it. They also have Magi Quest, which is a live action adventure game kids play throughout the entire lodge. It's like the magic never stops and your kids are always occupied. Between the Northern Lights Arcade, the great dining options, and the complimentary dance parties nightly, there's genuinely something for everyone all under one roof. No packing up and driving somewhere every hour. No, I'm bored. Just connection, fun, and honestly, a little magic for you too. With 22 lodges across the country, there's probably one close to you. Check it out at greatwolf.com and bring your pack together.
Right, totally. And there's also could have been like, there also have been moments, and I talk about moments in the book, right? There's real stories in the book about moments where I did come in hot, right? Where it's like, it's not just like supportive, can I rescue you? It's like, what did you do wrong here? Like, how do we fix this, right? Like, there's so many different ways I could have responded. And the ping is like getting to know those little, it's like just familiarity with like what that part of me sounds like, where that part of me lives in my body, the kind of thoughts that tend to spiral around those parts of me, because I don't want that part of me actually to jump in the driver's seat. That part of me is really good data. It's not a bad part. My anxious part, my protective part, my angry part, right? Like my like hates, disappointment, people pleasing part. Like these are all not bad parts. They're providing me data about what's happening in the world around me. Sometimes these parts don't get it right and they take on an extreme role or they jump in the driver's seat and that's not so helpful, but it's data. And that what's actually so beautiful about that data and connecting with that ping and just taking a beat before I respond is allowing that ping to tell me, gosh, you know this feeling. You can connect with her at a deep personal level right now. And also you have insight into what she actually needs right now because you have been there too. And actually at that age, and it's different. For my 5-year-old, it'd be different than my 14-year-old. What she needs actually is a little bit of space. I want her to know that I'm here. I put a hand on her shoulder, rubbed her shoulder just a little bit and just said something like, I'm here for you, sweetie. Like, if you want to talk later, I'm here. We paused to get a snack and I came into the front seat and just was like, I have some things I want to say. Like, do you want to hear them or do you need some space and talk about it later? She's like, later. And so I was like, got it, and went back in the back seat and then was able to talk to her about it the next day. And, what was incredible was that the next day when I came and talked to her about it, she was like, I'm like pretty angry because I feel like I feel like it surprised me and I feel like I really worked hard for it and I still don't really understand why I didn't get it. And then she said this, she's like, but what I also realize is like, I'm a speck of dust floating in the universe and this won't like make or break my life. And I immediately started to well up and like, and she's 14. So I was like, that's a really cool perspective. Like I'm going to try to play it real cool right now. But also my girl, if I had even an ounce of that perspective when I was your age, would have saved me a lot of turbulent stress in my life. So I'm like, I'm really, and I know that she's absorbed that over the years in conversations that we've had, that she really owned it in that moment. This was coming from her. I honored that, right? Ultimately,
Yeah.
I think that what our kids need and what I needed in moments, and that's where the like internal insight comes from. I think we spend so much time in this intensive parenting era thinking that everyone else has the answer, right? Outside of us. But ultimately, like I knew that she needed just to, like someone to like be in it with her and not like rescue her from it or come in hot or like get triggered by the disappointment and like it.
Right. Yeah. Like a belief like in coaching is that everybody has their own solutions. They just kind of need the space and to be asked the right questions to get to that space. And you bring up so many things there just in like that one interaction, just the knowing that you need to ask this question about space, about like coming to her and saying, hey, there are some things like I really, really want to share. And can I share them now or later? Like I'm going to borrow that phrase, Cassidy, because that is gold. So many times I will come to my daughter and I'll be like, okay, I know you need your space right now, but then I don't know how to get in like this parental kind of like checking in and teaching because that space needs to happen. And then also the follow up, like I feel needs to happen as well.
For sure.
So I
For
love
sure.
that phrase.
For sure.
And something that you address in the book is that sometimes we don't know why we're so reactive. And it could be this accumulation of these little T traumas, these paper cut traumas. And what you said that I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so seen here. And I know like so many of the No Guilt Mom listeners will feel so seen in this sentence is for many people, trauma rewires the brain to associate calmness with vulnerability, a state that once left them unprotected. We might find ourselves jumping up the moment someone walks through the door as if to prove we're not being idle or avoiding downtime altogether by staying perpetually busy. This is something I see over and over again among so many moms, this worry that we're not being productive and this worry that we're like, our worthiness is tied to our productiveness. I guess my first question is like, what like little things led us to that point?
Oh my gosh. This is such a good question. And I think that, you know, I think it's so important to name what I named here before, but coming back to it, of this intensive parenting era that we're living in, where I think that it's not a surprise to me that our generation is really feeling this sense of it is my job to optimize everything, right? Optimize every moment with my child, to optimize a vacation, right? Like that it's not just going to be a trip for relaxation, but like it should be this like developmentally, like, you know, socially, like moving the needle forward for my kid, like experience. And, you know, I think a big piece of it is, you know, gosh, that just like the history for us as millennials, right? Like the different experiences we had, you know, like we're the generation that, you know, our parents probably weren't doing their own work. And so we had parents with their own triggers and their own sort of parenting styles, right? I think timeouts and kind of harsh expectations, big expectations were pretty common, you know, in the fabrics of our childhood. And so we sat alone with our feelings, but also
lots of
felt
loneliness with our feelings.
Lots of loneliness with our feelings. The first generation to imagine that might need to look different for our children, but not necessarily, but like reparenting these parts of ourselves while trying to figure out how to regulate our children while simultaneously trying to figure that out for ourselves too, right? We also the generation that lived through, you know, 9/11 and these sort of like big events where all of a sudden it was like the world feels less safe, and also the digital era of social media and online where we have access to so much more information in the world around us. You know, we also joined the workforce during economic decline, right? There were not a lot of jobs. We also parented through a global pandemic. Like,
we millennials deserve a lot more sympathy than we're getting. I mean, like really.
And I just think that like, you know, a lot of this context matters. And then we also have to bring in, which you name like the big T and little T traumas. Like naming for ourselves, like big T traumas. Like what were some big events that happened in your unique life, in the context of your life that may have made your anxious parts or your nervous system a little bit more on edge? And then there's also though the little T traumas. These are all the little paper cut moments where you felt like invalidated or overwhelmed or alone with your feelings, the different ways in which people came in hot or didn't come in at all when you really needed it. And that now we're all trying to figure out, with our children, how do I show up for them and validate their feelings? And I don't even quite know how to validate it in my own, and how to help them regulate in a meltdown and co-regulate with them when I'm still trying to figure out how do I handle that within my own body. And so, the through line of the entire book is this idea of margins. And I think that ultimately our generation, if you imagine like a calendar that includes everything that is on our calendar and how we spend our day, not just the appointments and the, activities, but how we're optimizing every single moment and taking in more information with our handheld devices. Like we have very little space to process, to regulate. And I think that that's ultimately hurting our brains and our bodies and our nervous systems and our relationships. And so my through line of the book is how do we reclaim this idea of protecting margins and identify our triggers and break cycles for us as millennials living in this intensive parenting era where we really feel like it is our job to optimize everything and be everything for everyone around us.
Yeah, I mean, what you say there, be everything for everyone around us. I mean, myself included. I recently went through a lot of therapy when one of the main ahas through it is that I was trying to take on 100% of my relationships. The responsibility for even other people's reactions, I was placing on me. I could have done something differently so that they didn't react that way. And that realization about every relationship you come to is 50-50 versus the thought that I have to optimize this, I have to be the perfect one. It took a lot of stress off of me.
Totally. And just to kind of bring this back to the your childhood, little T, big T traumas, experiences, when you're a kiddo and the world around you is chaotic for whatever reason, right? Or intense, or parents have big feelings. And when you are little and you're trying to make sense of that, the thing that a child is most likely going to lean towards is this must be something that I have control over or is my fault. And also the only thing that I do have control over is myself. So I'm going to just own this as something that I have to fix or that I can manage. And that's when you find a kiddo who finds themselves trying to people please or keep things within themselves or not express themselves or, not have meltdowns and try to be perfect. Because that's what they have control over is themselves. Right.
Right.
And then unless an adult comes in at some point and is like, hey, I want to heal this. I want to apologize and repair this, right? Or unless we went to therapy and got a chance to work through that, we're going to bring those parts of ourselves into our relationship with our own children, and it's into our marriages, right? And to our other relationships. And so I think a lot of parents now find themselves in a really vulnerable place of trying to do this work for the first time while also parenting their kids. And it's a lot. It's tricky.
It is. It is so tricky. Well, Cassidy, this has been a fantastic conversation that I feel like I can ask you so many more questions and dig into it so much more. Your book, Mom Needs a Moment, How to Stop Your Reaction Before It Starts, is available right now.
It is. Oh my gosh. You're the first podcast I've recorded since it's come live. And to be now, you can literally go get it now. You don't need to pre-order. You can get it now. And you know what? I know that for book sales, hardcovers, those all really matter. So please, by all means, I think it's a beautiful book and I would think you'd love to have it on your shelf. But I think the audiobook is where the magic lives too. I read the audiobook myself. I feel like it's like having a therapist in your ear. I'm really proud of the audiobook.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. So go get
the audiobook, go get the regular book, go get whatever book to and if you love this discussion about all the traumas and the nervous system, like Cassidy actually goes into, okay, here's what you could do about it in the book. So go and get it. And Cassidy, to end us, what, I like to ask this of every guest, what is something that you are working on right now that you are looking forward to?
Oh my gosh. So I have recently got a creative download for a fiction book that I'm I have no idea if I know how to write fiction. It's eating me alive. So I feel like I have to do something with it, even if it's just for myself. And I also would love to write a children's book, and there might be some things coming down the pipeline in that regard. And so more writing, right? More ways to connect with moms in creative ways is something that I'm working on. And also continuing with having a teenager, knowing that this age is going to bring up a lot of stuff forward that I haven't had to gotten to face yet. And just continuing to be curious about that as it comes up.
Yeah, I could tell you that it's going to bring up a lot. Having a teenager right now.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Cassidy, for joining us. And
Thank you.
for all of you out there, remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you, and I'll talk with you later.
If you'd like to support the show further, you can share episodes with your loved ones, leave a positive review, or follow us on social media at No Guilt Mom. You can also show your love by visiting our amazing podcast sponsors. We have a link in the show notes.
NFL football season is here, which means when you switch to Verizon, it feels like touchdown, because you get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube on us when you buy an eligible 5G phone on select unlimited plans, which means you can watch every out-of-market game every Sunday afternoon, and it's all on us. Now that's the Verizon way to kick off the NFL football season right. Switch and get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube on us, only with Verizon.